An Arizona woman and an Arizona man will both spend the next 2 decades, 20 years, behind bars for the extreme child abuse, torture, and neglect of the woman's 10-year-old daughter. We're not told the girl's name. We are told that the scumbag banshee mother, her name Chloe Ray Sargent, 27 years of age, and the stepfather, Keola Kashere Wimbish, 40 years of age, were both sentenced to 20 years each in state prison. They both pleaded guilty earlier this year to at least 1 count of child abuse. The mother also pleaded to attempted child abuse, as did the stepfather, also pleaded guilty to 2 counts of attempted child abuse. So, no question, these 2 scumbags are guilty, 100%, and they've both been sentenced to 20 years in state prison. Is that enough? Arguably not. Going to read through some of the details of the injuries sustained by the 10-year-old girl, and I'm going to have to give you a trigger warning. There's going to be horrendous details within this, so you may find this disturbing. You may not want to listen. If so, I do understand. We're told that the 10-year-old girl was taken into state custody December 10th, 2021, at which point doctors performed a medical examination at hospital, and they found at least a dozen broken bones. At least a dozen broken bones. The 10-year-old girl was also covered in scrapes, bruises, and burns. She also suffered a laceration in her shin that was so deep that the bone, her shin bone, was visible through the cut. You could see her bone. She had a cut so deep it was cut to the bone. She also had at least a dozen broken bones. This poor girl had been viciously abused, viciously tortured. These are injuries that you wouldn't expect to be sustained by a stuntman, by a UFC MMA fighter. And yet here we are, a 10-year-old girl with these horrific injuries, these extensive injuries, befallen upon her at the hands of her scumbag mother and her scumbag stepfather. In addition to those injuries, several of her injuries were infected due to a lack of medical treatment. Further to that, she was suffering from chronic malnutrition. So, of course, an investigation was instigated. At first, the 10-year-old girl lied to the authorities, understandably so, of course. She was scared, perhaps for her life. Perhaps she still harbored love towards her mother, towards her stepfather. She was scared. She lied. She blamed some of the abuse on her uncle. The uncle denied any wrongdoing and claimed that he had seen both the mother and the stepfather hitting the 10-year-old girl, both in November and December 2021. Why did the girl lie? Well, she was instructed to do so, perhaps threatened to do so by her mother and the stepfather. Don't tell the authorities the truth. Blame it on someone else, and the girl chose to blame the uncle, and I don't blame the girl for that. She's a girl, she's extremely scared, she doesn't know what to do. So I'm sure the uncle harbors no ill will against the 10-year-old girl that was a child abuse CA torture victim. But at some point during the investigation, the girl did tell the truth and give more accurate information, including telling law enforcement officers that her stepfather beat her with a shocking array of weapons. That's right, weapons, on several different occasions. Both the mother and the stepfather repeatedly punched her in the face. 10-year-old girl, beaten by adults. I mean, to me personally, I'm not a parent, but I'm against spanking. I'm against any kind of corporal punishment of a child. Children are small, children are delicate. Adults are large. Adults have adult strength. Even women have adult strength when compared to a child. A parent is there to love and care for the child. By hitting your child, by enacting corporal punishment to this degree, that degree, you're telling your child that you do not love them. And that's going to have a psychological trauma to some extent or other. That's my approximate belief. My beliefs on that subject have largely been molded by my instinct, but also by Stefan Molyneux, who was 100% cancelled from the internet a few years back. He's said to have been a sufferer of wrongthink, but there he was, fighting against corporal punishment. Seems like a good guy to me, but what do I know? Anyhow, these scumbags, the mother and the stepfather, repeatedly punched the 10-year-old daughter in the face. Again, weapons were used against the girl. Those weapons included a machete, a crowbar, a hammer. The 10-year-old girl told authorities that the stepfather also lacerated one of her fingers, also choked her whilst holding her body against the door, also forced her to touch him inappropriately. What a fucking evil scumbag. 20 years in jail, not enough, is my declaration. He's pled guilty, by the way. The mother pled guilty too. He deserves more than 20 years. Let's hope the other inmates, perhaps the guards, have plenty of opportunity to speak with the stepfather about his treatment of his 10-year-old stepchild. Beat her, more than a dozen broken bones. bones, a laceration showing the bone, deep to the bone, choking her and touching her inappropriately. The 10-year-old girl also told investigators that when the family was staying at another relative's home, the stepfather waterboarded the girl with a bucket. Waterboarded the girl with a bucket. Remember the Desert War, the Iraq War? Remember the big hoo-ha about waterboarding prisoners of war? It was declared, and perhaps it was declared prior to this, but certainly it was declared abhorrent, a war crime, and yet this stepfather waterboarded his own stepchild. And that's not it. He also set her on fire by pouring alcohol on her and then using a lighter to start the blaze. What a sick... Why is this guy only got 20 years? That makes no sense whatsoever. Why hasn't he been charged with attempted murder? He waterboarded the girl with a bucket. He then set her on fire by pouring alcohol on her and using a lighter to start the blaze. That's attempted murder. Why isn't he being charged with that? Why isn't he being sentenced for that? 20 years, not enough. The article tells us that in addition to being touched inappropriately or forcing her to touch him inappropriately, the stepfather also essayed her. So I would think that the touching him would be essay, but seemingly things progressed even worse. So for sure, the stepfather, an absolutely evil, sick demon, some would say. 20 years, no way enough. The mother, also a torturous scumbag. The mother broke the 10-year-old's girl and burned her leg. Further, they forced her to take drugs through a straw. We're also told that the stepfather made one of the girl's brothers hit her in the face with a hammer. Are these stories made up? Is this a 10-year-old girl with a wild imagination? No. She was found with a litany of injuries, more than a dozen broken bones. The scumbag mother, the scumbag stepfather have pled guilty to child abuse. I'm concerned that they weren't both trialed with attempted murder, but they've pled guilty to child abuse. They're both been sentenced to 20 years in jail. This is not made up by the girl. Further, another child in the house corroborated some of the abuse that the girl had stated. The girl's sister said that she often saw the young girl with her feet and legs bandaged, and that she had never once seen the couple feed their often injured child. The girl was never seen by her own sister being fed. Again, when she was taken to hospital, she was found to be suffering from severe malnutrition amongst other ailments, infections, and more than a dozen broken bones. A laceration on her shin so deep that you could see the bone. During the investigations, both the mother and the stepfather reportedly denied having anything to do with the abuse. Oh, nothing to do with me, officers. Don't know how these injuries occurred. She must have fallen. But thankfully, the investigation led to enough evidence for them both to be sentenced to 20 years in jail. But again, not enough. 100% not enough for the stepfather. The stepfather has pled guilty to at least some of the accounts of child abuse, but seemingly he essayed the 10-year-old girl and he attempted to kill her. We're told that he waterboarded her. Do you know what waterboarding is? Well, my rough understanding is that you basically strap somebody down and pour water down their throat in a drip fashion or some fashion or other, and effectively you run the risk of drowning that person. That's my rough understanding, but it is torturous. It's absolutely torturous. You're not able to defend against it. It can cause your death. That's attempted murder in my mind. That's torture. That alone deserves more than 20 years. Also, there's the SA. Also, there's the instructing her brother to hit her in the face with a hammer. Also, there's the severe malnutrition that she suffered, not being fed. Also, there's the not treating her injuries, her infected lacerations, her dozen broken bones. Also, there's the pouring alcohol on her and then setting her alight. 20 years in jail. That is disgusting, frankly. We're told that once the pair are released from the Arizona Department of Corrections, both defendants will be placed on supervised probation for 10 years. Why so light? We're not really provided with a great deal of information in regards to the mother. Certainly, we're told that the mother was absolutely involved, absolutely stood by and witnessed, absolutely took part in a lot of the abuse, but we are told that the scumbag stepfather performed worse. Why would you let these guys out with just 20 years and then give them supervised probation? I mean, it's just not enough, Arizona. This needs to be reviewed. The charges laid against them need to be upgraded. They need to face attempted murder charges. Certainly the stepfather does. 20 years in jail. I really do hope that the other inmates of whatever correction facility these two scumbags reside in have the opportunity to have nice little cozy chats with both of them. Oh, hi, Chloe Ray Sargent. You're the 27-year-old that tortured and abused your 10-year-old girl, aren't you? Oh, maybe we could have a nice little conversation about that. Keola Keshero Wimbish, you pled guilty to child abuse of your 10-year-old stepchild. You asked one of her brothers to hit her in the face with a hammer. You waterboarded her. You set her alight. You're responsible for more than a dozen broken bones in her bodies. You didn't get any medical treatment for her. You subjected her to severe malnutrition. You barely fed her. That's interesting. Why don't we spend some time to explain how we feel about that? Let's hope that the other inmates and the guards get to express their feelings on the subject in a robust fashion. I'm going to wrap things up at this point. Let's hope and pray the 10-year-old girl and any of the other children are able to recover from the horrendous torture, the horrendous trauma that they faced. Let's hope that the 10-year-old girl gets all of the medical attention, psychological attention that she's going to need. Let's hope that she's placed in a loving, caring, sane family home, looked after by her parents, her new parents, let me say, her new guardians. Of course, the 10-year-old girl's name has been withheld for her safety and security, and so that she's able to recover and lead a normal life. And let's hope that that is the case. I'm going to wrap things up at this point. If you do appreciate the coverage, please do like, comment, subscribe, share the video as you see fit. Consider joining my memberships to show a little bit of support. That would be very much appreciated. I really do appreciate you listening. I appreciate your time. I very much appreciate your comments. And I would like you to express your thoughts in the comment section. Express how you feel. It's a good way to, I'll use the word vent, but it's a good way to express our feelings. And I think we do need to express our feelings. Can't hold on to them for too long. So it is good to say a few words in the comment section. Just express your thoughts. And then I feel that, for me at least, that allows me to move on. And that's what I'll be doing. I'll be moving on. I'm not going to dwell on the subject for too much more because I know that to do so will negatively affect my mood too much. So with that, I'm going to suggest that you don't watch too many of my videos. I very much appreciate you watching and listening and commenting and subscribing, sharing and all of this. I very much appreciate that. But it can be very depressing and we have to look after our mental health, our mental moods. And if you listen to too many, it can bring you down too much. So please don't listen to too many. Go away, watch some kitten videos, watch some puppy videos, watch some comedy, watch a light-hearted drama, go out for a walk, spend some time with your family, your friends. Just do something that's gonna bring some light into your life. Please don't dwell on these subjects for too much. They're important to reflect upon, and I think the way that I deliver the videos, we do that in a very respectful way, but we have to move on mentally. So I'm gonna wrap things up. Again, I do appreciate your time. Take care.